Your council meeting for Monday, November the 26th. Can we begin, please, with a resolution from council to adopt the minutes from the last meetings? Councillor Van Elf and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Great. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Again, could I ask for, thank you, Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Carlson, to adopt the agenda for tonight. Council, as you'll notice, it's a pretty big agenda, over 400 pages attached, so we'll try to get through this as quickly as we can. Okay, now's the opportunity for public comment. We allow 15 minutes maximum at the beginning of the meeting for this. If you would like to speak, you have 2 minutes, and I'll ask you to state your name and address. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to make a comment on any of the highlighted items on the agenda? Please come to the podium, sir.
So what do you want to know first? Name? Rob Windrum.
Thank you.
And I live at 11505 Fenwick Road.
Thank you.
My neighbors are applying for a variance.
Sorry?
My neighbors are applying for a variance.
Development variance permits are not highlighted on the agenda, so there's not the opportunity to speak at this time, but there will be when that item comes forward on the
Perfect.
agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. No one else has come forward, so I'll move on to my mayor's report. Last 2 weeks have been very busy for council, and the next 2 promise to be the same. Councillor Holmes and I attended 2 days of orientation at the regional district 2 weeks ago and the first budget session last week. There are 2 significant regional district items of interest to the people of Summerland in 2019. The first is the BC Transit bus linking us to Kelowna, and the opening of the new facility at the Penticton Regional Hospital. Speaking of the hospital, I was elected vice chair of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital Board, and I picked this up. There is an open house for BC Transit, Shape Your Neighborhood's Transit Future, Wednesday in here, council chambers, from 1 to 3 p.m., Wednesday, December the 5th. So if you'd like to come in and provide your feedback, that would be great. Last Wednesday, 2 weeks ago still, on November the 14th, Councillors Holmes, Patton, and Barkwell and I attended an information session regarding the Eneas Creek flooding and the resulting property damage this year. Staff from Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Emergency Management BC joined our district staff to answer questions and engage affected homeowners. We are expecting that the Eneas Creek Risk and Hazard Assessment report will be available by the end of the year. On November the 21st, I attended a meeting of the Southern Interior Local Government Association Executive in Coldstream, and on the way home, I stopped in Kelowna to attend the Community Water Forum. The forum focused on BC's action plan to the 108 recommendations in the Abbott-Chapman report. That report was on the fire and floods and was released in the summer. We heard about it at UBCM earlier this year. One of the actions underway is the new $50 million Community Resilience Investment Program for Fire Smart and for community-led emergency planning initiatives. Tonight on the agenda, item 12.1 concerns a district grant application to this same program. The damage caused by Eneas Creek and the Mount Eneas wildfire to both public and private property are just 2 examples of how climate change is impacting Summerland. As this council moves into strategic planning in January, climate change mitigation and adaptation measures may be considered along with many other potential initiatives and projects. While it will be exciting to plan for the next 4 years, council recognizes it will also be difficult. There is a limit on staff capacity and our own financial resources. We must first carefully decide which of the growing number of projects are priorities and then plan accordingly. Council looks forward to celebrating with you at the 31st Annual Festival of Lights, starting at 5 o'clock this Friday. Thank you. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, the Mayor already mentioned the BC Transit open house, which is on Wednesday, December 5th, 1 to 3 here. The second open house that same week is for the trail cycling and sidewalk master plans, and it will take place on Thursday, December 6th, 5 to 7 in the Arena Banquet Room. So the consultants have compiled the information from the first open house and survey, and will have their findings and recommendations at this upcoming one. Many of you are aware that on November 21st, the district, led by Tammy Rothery, hosted a solar energy and energy efficiency workshop for homeowners and renters that were interested in reducing their energy consumption. And the funding for that workshop was provided through our integrated solar project grant through the Rural Dividend Fund in Fortis, BC. But originally we thought that we'd have 25 attendees, and that's what the cap was for those. But the response for the community was strong, so the organizers, Tammy mainly, rejigged, and there was almost 90 people registered. So the second session was added to accommodate those extra registrants. Everyone that I've talked to personally that attended, because I only got to pop in for a couple minutes since we had other things going on that night, but was like extremely positive, and it really showed with the participants were asked to complete an evaluation survey. The feedback was exceptionally positive, with every single respondent saying that yes, they would recommend the session to others if it was held again. So we don't often get that kind of positive feedback. So could say some more, but I think council already knows it was a big success, and kudos to Tammy for getting that going. And then lastly, I just was recognizing before I came in today that tonight is my last council meeting regular council meeting in 2018, as I'll be on vacation coming up. And with that, and following what I just said about Tammy, much of the focus has been on the civic election and new council over the past 3 months, but I'd like to take just a minute to voice my appreciation for all of the staff here, from department managers, exempt staff, to the works and utilities crews, to those who work in municipal hall, the fire department, treatment plants, just everywhere in the district. In local government, the actions of staff is usually under a great deal of scrutiny, and we tend to hear a lot of the negative, or when I'm trying to stick handle all the situations that come up, I know that they hear a lot of negative from me, some of them. But it's, we're really fortunate that we have an amazing staff here at the District of Summerland that are very dedicated and just committed to the district, and I'd like to take this opportunity just to point that out once again. 2018 was an incredibly full year between the major projects that we had going on, some of the initiatives that we undertook, some of them exciting and fun ones, some of them just, regular infrastructure kind of projects, but then also the unexpected events. So I just wanted to say again that we're extremely fortunate throughout the municipality. And with that, I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Okay, council, on to 9.1, T-Pier Structural Assessment Resolution. This is the resolution that was brought forward from the closed session of November the 13th. Could I have someone bring that resolution forward, please? Councillor Traynor?
Yeah, I'll bring it forward as written.
It's just it just is being brought out. It doesn't actually need, it's just bringing that forward.
Just for just for information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's from the closed session, so it's already a resolution.
Yes, thank you.
Do we need somebody to bring it forward then? Is that?
No, council passed a resolution
Right.
in camera
Okay.
to bring it forward and have it forward. So it's just information. It's the committee, the whole ones that need a recommendation.
Got it. Okay.
So as we go on, maybe I could ask you to bring forward the next resolution, 9.2, because that is out of the committee of the whole meeting.
Sure, I will
Thank
bring
you.
it forward as written.
And this is to do with the property condition assessment of the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Van Elfen. All in favor? Carried. On to 9.3, applications to grant funding opportunities. Again, we had this discussion at, actually a considerable discussion at our Committee of the Whole on November the 13th, and we will be able to discuss more on the specifics at our December 10th meeting. Is there somebody that would be willing to bring forward that resolution? And I'll ask you to read it too, please. Councillor Van Elfen?
That staff be directed to initiate preliminary work for funding applications for the following projects: Rural and Northern Infrastructure Program, Electrical Utility Voltage Conversion, Community Culture and Recreation Program, Arts Center and Museum, and further that resolutions for support of these projects be brought forward for council's consideration at an upcoming meeting prior to application deadline.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Carlson? All in favor? Carried. On to correspondence, 10.1, information items. Is there anything that someone would like to bring forward, or a resolution to receive it for information, please?
I'll move that we receive it for information, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. And a seconder, please. Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. 10.2, same thing with the committee or commission minutes. Could I have somebody bring forward that recommendation, please, to accept those? Councillor Barkwell?
Bring it forward as written.
Thank you. Received for information, Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Great. Now on to development services reports, and I will direct those to,
I'll take them
Okay,
to start
thank
with.
you.
Just
CAO.
because it's Mr. Pady today. So for these next couple of development services report, Mr. Pady, with some support from Mr. Taylor, will introduce those.
Thank you. This next application is a development variance permit to allow for an accessory building to be located within a front yard. The property is located at 11259 on Fenwick Road. Now, that's about 2 kilometers south of the downtown. It's at the end of Fenwick Road, which is essentially a bit of a parking area for at the beginning of the Trans-Canada Trail, as well as to one of the entrances to trails located on Colco Mountain. The property is approximately 2.6 acres in size. It's included in the country residential zone. It's in an area that's primarily surrounded by agricultural properties as well as CR1 zoned parcels. The proposal is to allow a carriage house to be placed within the front yard. Now, the zoning bylaw differentiates between setbacks between front yards and side yards, and also the front yard. The front yard setback for accessory buildings is 7 meters, and the proposed carriage house meets that requirement. However, the zoning bylaw also has another unique provision that requires that the accessory building not be placed in front of the existing single-family dwelling. So despite the placement of the house and the footprint established for the and the buildable area established for the lot, the accessory building can't be in front of the single-family dwelling that exists. So the variance is to allow for the accessory building, in this case, to be placed within the front yard. Now, this property has 2 steeply sloped portions of the property. The first portion is closest to the road. As you'll see here, I have the pointer on the map. You'll see this green area is a steeply sloped portion, and it does actually slope down towards the property along this portion, as well as the rear of the property that you can see in this portion. This portion where the existing house is and the existing accessory building is the flattest sort of bench portion of the property. This accessory building, as it exists, is approximately 900 square meters, and both the house and the existing accessory building meet the setback requirements of the zone. Here is another image showing the topography of the site, and you can see the contour lines show the steepest portions of the lot at the front, again, at the rear. This lot is actually oriented north. I apologize for the last map, is oriented east-west. So this property, the proposed location is, as you can see here, in dotted in yellow. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any new correspondence? There is one item of correspondence attached to the agenda.
Thank you. No new correspondence has been received.
Thank you. So this is an opportunity for the public to comment. Beginning with the proponent. Is the proponent in the gallery tonight? No? Oh,
But they may not want to speak.
yes. Yeah. So please come forward.
So again, I live at 11505 Fenwick Road, Rob Windrum. I live right next door to Ronnie Lane. My problem with putting a carriage house there is it's rental property. And if you happen to use the Trans-Canada Trail on any day of the week, including this morning, there was 11 cars down there. Biggest concern I have is land stewardship and fire risk, because it is not well-maintained property. Even if they put a carriage house there and it's maintained, the fire risk because of people and the lack of parking increases the risk to the public in that area. It also reduces our quiet neighborhood, which has already been significantly traumatized by the trailhead. So I'm vehemently opposed to any more building going on there unless there's adequate parking placed in better water, sewer, fire. A fire hydrant is probably 500 meters from my house. It's a dead-end road. I don't really have anything else to say other than it's going to affect privacy, and fire risk is a huge issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this? No. Okay, council, are there any questions of staff? Councillor Carlson?
Yes, I have a question about the wording that was used by the development planner or manager. He used the term unique provision, and I'm wondering what makes this a unique provision in Summerland's bylaw, and if we might see that differently in other communities, or if it's something that simply is shouldn't be there.
Mr. Patey can respond.
If I may, it is common to have setback requirements for accessory buildings, and typically they are similar to what they would be for an existing single-family dwelling, such that they're 6 meters from a front property line, but typically much closer to a rear property line to allow people to have accessory buildings placed within their property. I haven't, in my practice, seen a provision like the one that we currently have here, which prevents you from having an accessory building in front of the single-family dwelling, particularly in a rural area where we tend to have, with the exception of farm plates, we tend to have a separation of residential uses to create a rural type of feel, and so that we have some of those separations. In addition, it is possible that a lot of our rural properties may have 30, 60, 100 meters of property between the front property line and the existing single-family dwelling, and it seems unusual not to allow an accessory building or a carriage house to occur within that area, given that the total developable area of the lot should be really established by front, side, and rear setback requirements. And this is, I say it's unusual because it's, one, I've never seen that before, and I think it's an unfair, just in my professional opinion, requirement to allow people who may not have any other opportunities to place the carriage house on the property. Carriage houses are permitted in this zone.
So to follow on that, then, the only reason that a variance is required is because of this unique provision. Otherwise, it would be permitted in the zone, and the size and all of those things conforms.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
I can't really tell from the drawing, but is there parking at the carriage house?
The property is accessed via easement through the property directly to the north, with the bench portion of property, there should be sufficient amounts of area, given that the property is approximately 2.6 acres in size. But the site plan that we have does show that there is a parking space allocated for this unit,
At the unit itself or up top?
for the unit itself.
So there'd be one parking space at the unit,
That's correct.
and which would be accessed off the easement,
That's correct.
right?
Councillor Barquin?
Yeah, so, first, a question to a planner. I was just noticing that the easement, does the easement touch the property line there, or would they require another easement to access the building at that location?
I haven't reviewed the easement to see if there's a specific location plan for the easement.
If you go back to the previous slide, yeah, see, they sketched in the road, but, so, if that was even anyhow, that's not really the issue here, but it is a point to note that there could be a problem somewhere down the line. I just, you're speaking a little more conceptually about the requirement for to have an accessory building behind the main residence, and there's also sort of a difference between a second residence for farm help versus a carriage house, and there's a farm help building has to be within the farm home plate, and yet a carriage house could be significantly different. Do you know the rationale for one versus the other, or is that just another sort of historical anomaly in Summerland?
Do you want to speak to the farm plate, Kevin?
The farm home plate in the A1 or A2 zone is to limit the area of agricultural land that could be developed. In the instance of an accessory of a dwelling for farm help, the farm home plate is actually expanded from about 905 square meters to, I believe it's about 1,500 square meters. So it is taken into account that more space is needed for an additional dwelling, even in the farm home plate instance.
But it still has to be, located close, even, and the variance would be required if there was a better location on a non-agriculture. I guess the theory behind it was that maybe you're going to be limiting the destruction of agricultural land by requiring it to be in a centralized spot?
Yeah, to the mayor, that is the intent behind the farm home plate, is to condense development within one area on an agricultural parcel.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson?
I'll note that one of the concerns with carriage homes on rural and agricultural properties is that they will require septic service, and this, as it is a ways from the home, I just wonder if it has its own septic, and if that has been taken into consideration in this as well.
It has, this property, because it's over 1 hectare, is able to be serviced by way of septic, and it's our understanding that they intend to determine percolability of soils on site once, if they're successful with the variance.
So it won't go into the original septic because it's too far away, and I assume there'll be a brand-new septic. If this was going to get permission to go, it would require its own septic.
It would,
Okay,
and they would
thank
also
you.
have to prove capacity of the existing septic if that was to be the case.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. One of the concerns raised was fire, the location of it and the potential for fire. Just wondering, has it been reviewed by the fire department?
Yes,
Yes, okay, thank you.
as far as we circulate to all departments.
And again, I just want to go back to the parking. Is parking on Fenwick Road controlled at all? And what I wouldn't want to see is that the house being used as, for whatever's purpose used for, that people end up parking right on Fenwick Road and walking up, when we know that that's a pretty high parked area already for the trail. I don't think we really want to add more parking on the road, and so how do we ensure that that isn't the case?
Mr. Taylor will respond to that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Parking is a requirement of the building permit, so at time of building permit, the applicant will have to prove that they have sufficient on-site parking to accommodate the dwelling.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, so theoretically, if this was set where the existing house is or in behind, they wouldn't even be here for a variance.
Correct.
So this would be approved without any consultation whatsoever. In this drawing, the yellow drawing, the proposed carriage home, it shows 40 feet, if I'm not mistaken, from Fenwick Road.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's ample parking off Fenwick for a driveway to come into this location, it would look like, possibly.
It's a fairly steep grade from Fenwick Road up to the property, and to the proposed location for the accessory building. And unless you actually provided a stairway access down to Fenwick Road, I can't really see that being a parking area to facilitate pedestrian or walking access to the proposed carriage house.
Thank you.
Councillor Traynor?
I just have a question further to Councillor Holmes' question about fire. I was just wondering, as we add more carriage houses around Summerland, especially in more rural areas like this, do the fire service levels change or anything like that as we add more carriage houses? Presumably there would be more of a risk if there's more homes.
If we ever, the fire chief can speak to that during budget, but if we ever reached a density that was so, that triggered new, we're always looking at staff complements and firefighter complements, so that's, we would have to, and looking at response time, so that would be a gradual thing for sure, but
Okay.
at this point in time, it's not in our discussions.
Okay.
Carriage houses at this point in time are allowable uses in these zones.
Yeah, I know that. I just was thinking long-term.
Any other questions of staff? Could I ask someone to bring the resolution forward, please? Councillor Van Elfen?
Move it forward as written.
Thank you. Seconded? Councillor Carlson?
It's to be approved, just.
Oh, to be approved, yes. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Barkwell?
Looking at just sort of commenting on how I'm going to vote, the topography of it all really shows that the parking on the road isn't going to be any sort of a problem for people at that location, and I'm not really buying the idea that it has to be there because of topography, because there's plenty of level land behind the house to the south. However, on the other hand, it does seem like a perfectly reasonable place and is probably better and further from the neighbors than if they were to build this building without a variance. So with or without a variance, that building can be built, as Councillor Van Elfen said, so I see no reason not to support the application.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? I'll call the question though. Then, all in favor? And none opposed? Carried. On to 11.2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This next application is located at 13376 McClure Road. Now, this lot is directly to the east of the IGA, sort of just to the south of us. This property is approximately 890 square meters in area, so a smaller residential lot. It's surrounded by similar sized lots in the RSD2 and RSD1 zone, and so residential neighborhood type setting. This property has some steep topography on the front of the lot, and then has a middle bench, like the last property we talked about, as well as a rear bench at the rear of the property. The front of the property drops approximately 3 meters to the bench area where they're proposing to build an accessory building there, and approximately 6.5 meters to the rear property line of elevation drop. The request is to vary, again, the zoning bylaw to allow for the placement of an accessory building within the front yard, and it's within a portion of the front yard. It meets in this case, the RSD2 zone requires a 6-meter front yard setback. In this case, it does meet the requirements of front and rear and side yard setbacks. However, it does encroach slightly, as you can see, into the front yard setback as shown by the red line on the image on the screen. This really is, if you look at the proposal, or if you look at the topography of the property, really the only location where an accessory building could be placed on this land. So the request in this case is to vary the provision to allow the accessory building to be placed within the front yard. There's a second variance request on this property, and that is to vary the height of the building. The zoning bylaw doesn't really contemplate geodesic dome-type structures. It primarily deals with flat roofs or pitched roofs. And in the case of a pitched roof with 412 or greater, we measure to the center line of the roof such that the upper portion of the roof isn't greater than 2.4 meters above the mean level. So that way we get kind of an averaging of total heights of buildings. If we were to consider the proposed geodesic dome structure in terms of total bottom to top and measure it in the same way that we measure pitched roofs, we would arrive at approximately 4.1 meters in total height. So the geodesic dome would actually fit the height requirements of the bylaw. However, we just don't measure, it's an unusual roof shape and we don't consider it in our zoning bylaw. I'm not sure what else to say about it. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I like your little overlay there. Do we have any new correspondence, Deputy Corporate Officer?
There's no new correspondence.
Thank you. Questions of council? Oh, yes, development variance permit, pardon me. If there's anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak, the proponent as well, you're welcome to come to the microphone. No, I guess not. Okay, so questions of our staff council. Seems like a fairly straightforward one. May I ask someone to bring forward the resolution then, please? Councillor Holmes?
I'll bring it forward as written to be approved.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Barkwell. Any discussion on this item? Okay, I'll recall the question. All in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. So on to 12.1. Fuel Management Operational Grant. You've probably all read the staff report. It's fairly self-explanatory. I just wanted to ask the CAO, though, if there's any new information since we received the report.
No new information since you received the report. The fire chief couldn't be here tonight. If there are questions, I can answer them.
All right. Are there questions? May I have someone bring forward the resolution then, please? Councillor Carlson, could you read it out, please?
I will move that an application to the UBCM Community Resiliency Investment Program for $100,000 be supported and that staff be directed to prepare and submit a grant application to the UBCM Community Resiliency Investment Program.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Van Alphen. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to 12.2, financial update as of September the 30th, 2018. CAO, is any more information?
No new information. If there are any questions, Mr. Savetlichny is here and can speak to them.
Council, any questions of our CFO? Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I can't actually find it. Where it was I wanted to refer to, but there are some items where zero money was spent, has been spent. And one of them, if I remember correctly, was downtown beautification, that line item. I'm not sure where it is.
I can speak to that question, though, and while David looks for it.
Okay.
That particular line item, although there's some work that's done downtown, over the last 2 years with the other things that are going on, a program haven't been implemented. We haven't been utilizing that as intended, where there's actually a formal sort of project done. So any work that's been done has just been coming out of the general maintenance budgets, I believe, rather than from that line item.
Okay, oh yeah, so here it is. So we have, but we did budget $20,000 for
Yes.
that, right?
Yes.
So that money would just be carried over?
So likely, it'll come forward in budget this year, and staff would recommend to council that it's carried over, or that it's added to, or some taken off, and have a plan on how it's actually going to get tackled this year.
Well, could I make a suggestion then, since in one of our outstanding resolutions, I believe it was, we have this resolution to work with the Arts Council to do street banners, and so why don't we contract the Arts Council to get some local artists to do some permanent street banners for us, and that fits under that line item, and also checks off a council resolution that we've...
Councillor Holmes, I appreciate that suggestion. Maybe that's something that we could bring forward for a committee of the whole discussion, so that we can have a more robust discussion on that particular line item. I think that it's a little bit off of the resolution that's before us tonight. Does that sound fair?
I would suggest, I did notice that I'm not sure why that one hasn't come forward with that particular line item. I can commit to having that report coming forward to next council meeting, and at that time, certainly if council wants to allocate money, they'd be able to allocate funds, and just a movement in the budget. So I think we need to have the report to tell us where the discussions between the Community Development Coordinator and the Arts Council is at, because I don't have an update right now.
Does that sound good, Councillor Holmes? Fair enough? Great. Any other questions of staff? Councillor Barkwell.
I was just wondering if the Director of Finance had any particular items he'd like to draw our attention to.
Aside from the capital, which is noted in the report, where we've basically spent 25% of our $11.7 million capital projects, and there's reasoning in the report as to why we are where we are, primarily with the floods and the fires over the summer, as well as a lot of the tenders that we've noticed that have been coming back are substantially a lot higher than where our budgets are at. So we will be looking at the capital as we move into the upcoming budget discussions here in the next months.
And we have a number of projects, work certainly has a number of projects underway right now, where these numbers will be quite a bit adjusted by the end of the year.
Any other questions? Could I have someone bring the resolution forward, please? Councillor Van Alphen?
So move, Madam Mayor, as written.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Barkwell. All in favor? Approved. None opposed. Item 12.3 is the 2019 council meeting schedule. December the 10th is the only one in December, and it's the last one for this year.
So this item, there's no new information, just a reminder that we traditionally do not have the second meeting in September nor the second one in December with the UBCM conference and the logistics of getting the agendas done and the end of December. However, in years where there's a lot of activity and business that needs to be conducted, there's nothing stopping us from holding extra meetings at any time, either during the year or at those time of year. So this year, there's three that are on Tuesdays instead of Mondays, and other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward.
All right. Councillor Barquo,
I move that the schedule be approved as presented.
seconded by Councillor Van Elfen. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 12.45 and 6 are related policies. The first one being a previous terms discussion, previous council. Council remuneration policy and repealing council remuneration and expense bylaw, number 2000-271, and bylaw number 2018-037. CAO.
So again, this one fairly straightforward, although a little bit confusing since there's a policy and a repealing bylaw. So just to be a little clear, when council I believe it was the end of August, passed the resolution for councillor remuneration, they directed staff as part of that policy to update, to repeal the bylaw and to put remuneration into the policy. So this particular policy that's before us here is just to speak to exactly that, which speaks to the fact that it should be reviewed in each year prior to a civic election. The fact that councillors' remuneration is 45% of mayor, and talking about the expenses, travel, conferences, insurance, technology. And again, council can update this policy at any time as well. But it reflects the conversation that was passed at that time.
Questions of our CAO? May I have someone bring the resolution forward? This is 12.4, please. Councillor Barquo?
Yes, I'll move the three resolutions as presented, and I will admit it is a little bit confusing if you haven't really followed quite closely, but I think I understand.
Thank you. So that this is adoption of the council remuneration policy and first, second, and third reading of the expense bylaw. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Van Elfen? Any further discussion? Councillor Traynor?
I read through it and I thought it was really easy to understand and clear. So I thought it was good, and I think it's
Hopefully the
good idea to
policy,
have this.
hopefully the policy is clear. I think the confusion is why you have the bylaw that we're repealing and that, but the actual
Yeah.
policy itself, I think, hopefully is clear and straightforward.
No, it's just nice to see, because sometimes they
Yeah.
are hard to understand, and this
Yeah.
one's very clear.
We're going to be working very hard to bring many policies forward in the next little while to be able to stick with them and make them clear.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed? Carried. 12.5, expense reimbursement policy, 100.1 amendment.
So this one, although there's a few small changes in format, really the major significant changes here is the research that our Director of Finance did on what other municipalities are doing reimbursement. So it's adjusting the dinner reimbursement, as anyone that's traveled with the district recognizes that when we're traveling, especially when you're downtown or anywhere in the Lower Mainland, it's not possible to get dinner for $25. So there's a recommendation to change the dinner to $35 and the incidentals, which we don't have right now, but if you are on a full day overnight, so a full day of travel and an overnight stay, an incidental of $10. And then also incorporated into there is that the mileage rate will be reimbursed to equivalent of the CRA rate, which was also passed as a resolution in our initial resolution done by council. So that's just incorporating into policy. And this one was upon directive of council to review this.
Great. Any questions of our CAO? Someone bring the resolution forward, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you.
I'll bring it forward as presented.
Seconder? Councillor Carlson? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, none. Carried. And 12.6, council travel and attendance at conference policy 100.6 amendment. CAO.
And again, this one, very straightforward, it's just we had some duplication between all of these policies. This one just took out the last part of the policy that referred to reimbursement, and instead of contradicting how we reimburse, it just refers to the policy that we just passed for reimbursement. So it's just to clean it up and make sure that they all refer to the same thing. There's no new information in there.
Just housekeeping then. Could I have someone bring that forward, please, if there aren't questions? You have a question, Councillor
Not really a
Holmes.
question, more of a comment. I just want to say regarding the policy for the conferences, the UBCM and SILGA and the FCM, you're requiring council's approval, which I'm good with. I just wanted to say that, I think last council, I always felt on the impression that councillors weren't really encouraged to go to FCM, that it was, something the mayors did. But as you probably know, I did go to one because I filled out a survey and I got my free registration. So I did go to one, and I really think it's worthwhile that at least once in our term that we all went to FCM if we wanted to. I think we kind of get closed into just what's happening in BC sometimes, and there is a lot that we can learn from other municipalities in the country, and so I just want to kind of think that that policy shouldn't be a deterrent to any of us who think that going to FCM would be worthwhile.
And can I just make a comment on that? In all the rest of the municipalities I've worked at, the council went on rotating basis. So when it was 3 years terms, they would go, the mayor went every year and 2 councillors went each year for exactly the same reasons as what Councillor Holmes just said. So we will what we can do is bring forward, since this is what the policy says, is we'll bring forward FCM registration to an agenda item, and you can have that conversation with Councillor Holmes' comments in mind.
Just requires council's approval, and it shows that in the policy. Good point, Councillor Holmes. Any other comments? Councillor Van Elfen, you were going to bring this forward?
If I may, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Bring it forward as written for approval.
And seconded, Councillor Trainer. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Okay, on to 12.7, perpetual slide update. CAO.
So we don't have any new information than what's in the report, but Mr. Johnson is available to be asking questions, or if council would like an explanation, he certainly can give an explanation.
Here's your chance, council. Questions of our Director of Works and Utilities?
Find my question is here somewhere.
Okay, I'll give you a moment.
Technology.
Councillor Trainer.
I have a question about the creek. I'm just wondering, when it gets down to the Trout Creek neighborhood, it's very murky. There looks like there's a lot of silt in it. Is it picking that all up once it passes the slide section? Like before that, is it clear? Do we know that?
I'll pass that to Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of groundwater and silt that does come out of the bottom of the slide area, and
Okay.
there is a noticeable difference upstream and downstream of this area as far as turbidity.
So that's where it's coming from then? That section?
That's where a significant amount is
Okay.
originating, yes.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I guess just from a high level, I understand we want to create some sort of baseline with the readings that we get. But I'm just wondering what it exactly is that we're trying to determine. And if we do, you know, if the monitoring instruments do pick up movement and something happening out of the ordinary, what does it tell us? What do we do with that information?
So before I pass it over to Chris, I'm just going to mention that, along with some of the technical things, we need to get a better reading of the level of risk, because the ministries are very interested as well, because there's risk to the highway and to other provincial infrastructure should a slide occur, but they won't contemplate funding or any other larger projects without some greater indication that there is significant risk, and the engineers can certainly assess, you know, these numbers may not mean too much to us, but it does mean significant to the geotechnical people.
Yeah, so the intent of it is to try to determine where, at what depth the slide is occurring, to basically ultimately quantify a volume that if it were to catastrophically fail into Trout Creek, what would be the extent of that? What would be the potential damming that would occur for a temporary time period until it breached? And then what would the potential impacts downstream be due to that volume of material and volume of water that were backed up in the Trout Creek Gorge? So the intent is to do some flood flood analysis downstream if that were to occur.
And that monitoring, we'll be able to do those modelings, those determinations?
So the intent right now with the boreholes is to determine what depth that material is actually moving, to then quantify the volume that would potentially catastrophically fail into the gorge.
Okay, so it's
the first step of that.
Yeah.
So it's not like an early warning system or anything like that?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's the testing to get the data to be able to do the analysis.
Any other questions of Mr. Johnson? I just have one related to the boreholes. It shows 4 boreholes, 2 of them are at the same depth. Is that correct? 30.2 meters?
Yes. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Great, thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I keep hearing that there's a crew from UBC that they come there in a big van and they crawl all over the perpetual slide every summer. And it seems to me that there should be a lot of data or of some kind that has been collected by these students that use it as part of a field program in one of their courses. Do we know anything about that?
We do. We've had some discussions with UBC. I don't remember.
Yeah, we had some discussion with them in 2016, looking to work with them to allow them access to and gain the data for some terrain modeling. However, that agreement was signed, but the work never occurred. So we haven't reached out to them recently, but it's an avenue we could explore.
It was determined that some of the work was of minimal, the relation to what would assist us in our investigation was not related enough, but that I think we just need to stay on it, and that's a good reminder.
Oh, Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through the staff. So to date, we've spent $80,925 on borehole investigation. Has some of those funds been grants?
None of those funds were grants. That was from the budget last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just sort of as a related point of interest, I know that there's been quite a few pipe breakages in the past in that area. Is it still continuing or is it settled down?
We have had a couple issues further to the west on Canyon View Road. We haven't had any in the immediate slide area recently.
Councillor Carlson.
Move the motion 12.7 forward to be received for information.
Seconded by Councillor Van Alphen. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of receiving the report? None opposed, carried. Item 12.8, the Rotary Beach F&I docks.
I think we'll turn that one over and let Mr. Johnson speak to it just a little bit. There's a lot of information in the report here. Just a note, I'm sure council figured it out, but there are two council reports from previous dates in there. Usually we highlight it and try to make it very obvious, but they're not here. So if you jump to the wrong one, it gets a little bit confusing, but it's, that there are three different dated reports.
Thank you.
But
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the body of the report, it speaks to the previous council reports that were brought forward. I'm going to jump to the reconstruction of the docks, which occurred in September. The docks, as you may recall, were constructed at a height higher than what they were previously, about 2 feet or 0.2 meters higher. That was for two reasons. One, to get the beams and the decking above the high water mark of Okanagan Lake. And the second one was to allow treated materials to be used, which would prolong the life of the structures. Anytime you're constructing docks below the high water mark, it's deterred from using treated materials. You have to use untreated materials to reduce the impact on the water and on the lake. So during construction, the height of the docks were questioned, and the first two sets of pilings were modified to ramp the section down to the beach to reduce the length that they would encroach or extend into the beach itself. That can be seen from the pictures that are attached to the report. So following construction, staff had further discussion about the dock height and concerns with liability and risk to the public, as well as the functionality of the docks and what purpose they were to serve. It was felt that as swimming structures, that functionality was lost by increasing the height of these to prolong their life and to reduce the impact of high water on them in the future. So staff was considering that, having discussions with that, and rather than attempt to mitigate risk and liability by installing railings or signage, staff concluded that the best approach would be, and as recommended in the report, would be removal and reconstruction of these at their previous elevation, or consider alternative designs. That would be the only way to address the public safety concerns in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of staff, please remember to direct them through the CAO. Councillor Carlson.
So one of the first things we talked about tonight was the failing pilings on the pier, which is right next to the beautiful new, very tall docks. Is there any opportunity to salvage some of that material, especially those beautiful concrete pillars, just throwing something like that out there? I understand that this is something that we have to remedy. I just wonder if any thought's been given to how we, even if it were to salvage it and use it for some other purpose. It seems like quite a cost just to throw away.
Yeah, the
Mr.
extension, the pile extensions that you're speaking to are galvanized steel extensions that were put on top of the existing piles to raise them that elevation. So they're only, they extend about 2 feet down the top of the pile and then 2 feet above it. So reuse of those would be unlikely on the pier. There would have to be another purpose that we would have to look into.
And so if, in removing the docks, would you have anything left in the ground, or would you have to, sorry, the docks or
Yeah.
the pier has the extra?
The docks.
The docks.
And
So could
the-
you
the
remove
exist-
just that part and still have a functional piling?
The existing timber pilings are still in place.
Okay.
This was just an extension that was put on top. of
However,
these.
the new deck surface is treated, therefore maybe not worth putting back on top of the old pilings due to the concern of the environment. Is that my
Correct.
understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Trainer.
How did we pay for those docks again? Was that through the province because of flood issues?
they will be funded through DFA, so the disaster.
They were, the ones that are constructed now?
So the way DFA works is that you reconstruct, fund fully, and then submit for reimbursement
Right.
of up to 80%.
Okay, so we would be reimbursed for the ones that are in right now. Is that right?
Well, we'll have to talk, now we'll have to talk to them. I highly doubt they would fund both. But we have to probably have some conversations. we haven't had those conversations with them yet to explore. So we'd have to now have some, we needed some general direction from council, and now we would start looking to see what our, one could argue that both sets, that it's all part of one project.
May I ask one more question? My second question was, so the reason why they were constructed higher is because of the full pool. That's...
No.
Well, and the treated...
Yeah, so, yeah, it was to raise them above the high water mark.
Okay, right.
Because of the treated.
And then it would allow treated materials to be used as well.
Got it. Okay, so if we were to have a flood event again, and we built new ones and they were lowered, is there risk for damage again?
Definitely.
Okay.
That's kind of a tricky thing.
Councillor Barkwell.
You go ahead.
Sorry, Councillor.
You're going to come forward with options, but I mean, the obvious one, which I see in other docks, is that they just have that perforated deck and the water splashes up through them and they last.
Well, absolutely, in determining what's the best method to rebuild to ensure that they don't get damaged or mitigate.
Councillor Carlson.
A couple of things. One, I think that we do need to make this beach a safe place. We also need to make sure it remains fun and that people go there for the, whether there's one dock or two docks, or, that having a swimming dock and something like that is quite a feature down at Rotary Beach, and I think people would be very upset if we decided not to put something back in. So I'm glad to see that it's on here as let's bring this forward for some further conversation. I know that there's also been some questions and recommendations in past about making the water accessible to those who may not be able to walk down to the water. So perhaps, I'm not sure how you get the wood, the treated wood off, if you have to take it piece by piece, but maybe you can reuse that as a walkway or some form of pathway instead of simply throwing it away.
Thank you. Are there any more questions of staff? Okay. Councillor Carlson, could I have you bring that forward, and then we can discuss further?
I'll move that staff be directed to proceed with the removal of the F&I docks at Rotary Beach. Just curiosity, that will leave the pilings in, it'll take it back to the state it was in before they rebuilt, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that the F&I dock replacement options be brought forward to a future council meeting for council's consideration.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Barkwell. Now, do we have more discussion on this item? Councillor Holmes.
I almost dare not say this, it might be sacrilegious, but it might be worth considering just putting an F dock in and not bothering with an I.
And I think we'd look at that when we come forward with the options.
Right. You're safe, Councillor Holmes, by suggesting that. Any other discussion on this item? Councillor Carlson.
I don't know what the history of Rotary Beach is, but perhaps if there's still some connection to the Rotary Club, there should be some conversation with them into what they would envision going forward there as well. Just an idea.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 12.9, Recycle BC Satellite Depot and Temporary Collection Site Options. CEO.
So, Council, as you can see from the report, it's fairly straightforward. Staff did some initial discussions with Multi-Material BC, which is now Recycle BC, regarding having a a collection depot downtown. At this point in time, the discussions are not going well. You see the options that are listed here. Staff is recommending that we do not participate in any of the current ones, but that we continue discussions to see if we can continue to work with them and come up with another opportunity. If you have questions, we can certainly speak to them.
Councillor Barkwell.
What is the Recycle BC's objection to the satellite sites and their objection to making it convenient for people?
I'll have Mr. Johnson.
Their biggest concern is contamination levels of the recycled material. So by having them right now having them at an approved primary depot, they're staffed fully, like all the time. They can be monitored and checked. By having them random satellite ones that aren't manned or that are conducted by other groups, which were some of the options that were in the report, that's their main concern, is the contamination levels of the material that they will ultimately receive.
And there's a big push with Recycle BC right now to reduce contamination. I know many other municipalities are starting to warn their residents that fines are going to become a reality because they're going to start enforcing their contract, and they've found that these satellite operations have higher levels of contamination.
By contamination, do you mean like materials that are foreign, that you have a styrofoam bin and people putting non-styrofoam
That's
things in
right,
it?
yeah, unauthorized, yeah, that's right. And they're very strict on that, and because they're so automated, I think one of the reasons that it just caused them not a lot.
Councillor Carlson, do you have a question?
Yes, the second option about having a temporary collection site determined by the district, that would be similar to what was done during Waste Reduction Week, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And the cost associated, I note, is considered to be approximately $1,900. Is that something that we could talk about now as an opportunity, or is that not something that Recycle BC and the district were going to work on right now?
So either Ms. Rothery or Mr. Johnson could speak to that and why it wasn't recommended at this point in time.
Yeah, so the recommendation is just based on the cost benefit of that option. It would have to be done on the weekend, similar to the other event. It would be a one-time event, trying to maximize the amount of material that you got. There would be advertising and associate that would be required. So that being the one option that is allowed under a current master service agreement with Recycle BC, it wasn't felt that it was the most most benefit for the cost associated with it. So that's why it was not recommended.
But that's not to say, though, especially during budget, that we can't look at the opportunity. I mean, it's not something that we have to sign up now for. So I think, judging by the success of them in the past, I think what we really were saying is we were looking for the ongoing satellite depot. Now, clearly, that's not an option in the way it is now. So now let's look and see if we could do a number of these other events and talk about it at budget time and incorporate them in.
Okay.
They certainly have been successful.
Councillor Traynor.
From staff's perspective, do they see a demand for this kind of service from citizens?
Absolutely.
Oh, they do, okay. And the Waste Reduction Week does really well?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
Okay.
in budget, I think it's better to think about it in terms of, special initiatives that we can
Okay.
undertake and continue conversations with Recycle BC to see if we can get something going ongoing.
Okay.
But to take it sort of in two different arms rather than blending them together.
Any other questions of staff? Could you bring the resolution forward? Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll bring 12.9 forward as presented, please.
Seconded. Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. On to 14.1, fees and charges bylaw amendment for solid waste, bylaw number 2018-036. Anything new, CAO?
Nothing new, and hopefully it's fairly straightforward that we have an opportunity for this pilot project, which would allow our residents to bring major appliances in for recycling and not have to pay the fees for for receiving them. So for once, it's a benefit in that fees and charges bylaw to reduce the cost to the residents.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, my only question would be, do we run the risk of everybody in the South Okanagan bringing their appliances to Summerland to have them recycled? And is that something we care about if it's being paid for anyway?
There are a number of other landfills that have already signed up with MAR. We haven't, just because they were not aware that we have our own landfill at the time, so we're sort of...
We're the latecomer.
We're not the first in the region to go ahead with this.
So Campbell Mountain does it?
Do we know?
I'm not sure if Campbell Mountain does specifically, I'd have to check into that, but.
Find out first.
Ask the question. If there aren't any more questions, could I have someone bring the resolution forward, please? Anyone? Councillor Trainer, thank you.
I will bring, do you want me to bring all three, or?
I think so. It's a pilot project, and then first, second, and third reading.
Okay, I'll bring forward all three resolutions as presented.
Seconded by Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. 14.2. CAO.
So we alluded to this one this morning when we were talking about rates and exploring rate models for solar energy devices, used to be known as net metering. But now this is for the zoning, so I'm not sure if it's going to be Ms. Rothery or Tammy will speak to this. There's probably no new information from the report, but certainly if you'd like us to give a review of it, let us know.
Just a question, if there's someone who currently has a system that doesn't comply with this, will they have to become in compliance, or is it grandfathered? Perhaps it's not a situation we find ourselves in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for that question. Currently, we don't have any systems that we're aware of that don't comply, but we do have 2 interested customers that would otherwise be coming forward for a DVP.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
I will move the motion 14.2 to be read a first, second, and
then could
third?
you read out?
First and second time, and then a
Thank you.
public hearing be held.
And public hearing date, you were thinking maybe December the 10th, CAO?
Yes, we had looked, we didn't actually write that in there, but we looked at the scheduling and determined that it could come forward on December 10th for a public hearing. And we would do the advertising immediately.
And that would be the motion.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Van Elfen? Any other discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Carried. 14.3, Council Procedure Bylaw Number 2018-035. Our corporate officer is away tonight, so CAO.
So, Council, I'll go through this one a little bit, just because it's got a lot of pieces to it. So we talked with Council at a committee of the whole meeting about the Council Procedures Bylaw. As you all know, the Council Procedure Bylaw is basically our guidebook for conducting business. It is equivalent to Robert's Rules of Order for organizations that don't have a procedure bylaw. It can be changed at any time during a council's term. What we've done here is we've taken a few of the suggestions that came up in the council meeting and things that we've noticed and tried to incorporate them. And the recommendation from staff is that council then incorporates these and that we operate for a couple of months and then review it to determine if there's things that you would like changed to help the meetings move more smoothly. But I don't think it would be prudent to do significant changes until this council has the opportunity to work together a little bit for a few more meetings. So the big ones here, there's a number of administrative changes just because we're doing an amendment anyway. There was references to old legislation. We've tried to make it more flexible references so that if a section in, say, the community charter changes, then your bylaw is not completely out of date, etc. We are suggesting, I think the biggest one is Section 15 on the agenda. We are suggesting a deadline of 4 p.m. on Thursday when we reviewed a great number of other municipalities. Almost everyone that we came across was either Thursday end of day or Friday. I know that there's some concern on public transparency, on being able to get agendas out earlier than that, but I need to say that certainly from a corporate officer's perspective, any item on an agenda that requires public input should be, the public input should be done separately than the agenda. The agenda shouldn't be the first time that the public sees something where you want public input on it. They should either be in public hearings or in public open houses or other means to get input. If it's a business agenda for council, then the focus of the items that come on here are things that have already gone through process or that council needs to make the decision on. So is our recommendation that that a realistic goal, so that we could have it a hard deadline, would be 4 p.m. on Thursday. It's currently on Wednesday. I don't think in the last term that we ever made it on Thursday. And if we're going to continue have as many things going on with the size staff that we have, we think that Wednesday would be very difficult. And we took public hearings out of the regular meetings. Public hearings typically have their own agenda, their own termination. It gives you more flexibility to keep them outside of the agenda. So it would still happen on a regular public hearing, that it would occur right prior to a council meeting, or if we have 4 or something upon agreement with council, we might have it at 6:30 or something prior to a council meeting. But it's just better practice not to have it embedded in a council meeting. That's just, we still have the public comment opportunity at the beginning. They've tried to put other language in that, and we are, as we talked about the committee, the whole meeting, trying to incorporate a sign-in policy and having someone available at the door to actually speak to people as they're coming in, to lessen the confusion on when they could speak and when they couldn't speak. Do you want questions now, or Aaron?
It was just with
Sure.
regards to that point.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, when the public comes in, then will what they can speak about already be on the TV? I was just wondering, would they sit down? I was just wondering, how will they know what they can speak to?
Well,
prior to
we'll have staff at the door to speak to it and to have the cover sheets there to talk, to speak.
Okay.
For anyone that's asking. It's, I mean, even in our biggest crowds, we have enough that we can catch people to talk about.
If this is passed, would we be able to put this maybe in the newsletter, just so that people understand how they can make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, we have to put notification when we're changing procedure bylaws, anything, so we'd highlight the major changes that we're making. But, I mean, reality is we're not changing anything as far as the process goes, so we would just be educating people when they came in to try to make sure that they understand when they could speak. And then...
Councillor Holmes, yes.
Just a comment, I just thought, we had a great example just tonight.
Yes, we did.
Somebody came and spoke for variance at the public comment thing, and it's confusing for people. So anything we can do to make it less confusing, I think is good.
I think it's not common for municipalities to have, as council's aware, to have a public speaking before a council meeting. It's almost always at the end, or at committee of the whole meetings. It's very, very rare that you find it. So if anyone's been used to another community too, it's kind of confusing when it's not the statutory ones. And then another one is the advisory committees. Most of our committees are advisory committees. They're not standing committees or select committees, and it wasn't even in our procedures bylaw. It wasn't, they weren't referenced at all, so it's just incorporated in there.
Councillor Barkwill had a question.
Not so much a question, but a comment on this confusion issue. Yeah, people, it's not a big problem, but it could, I note in the current agenda, it says exception, no comments on any item with statute such as zoning, OCP amendments, DVP, and TUP. This is confusing. Even the explanation is confusing, and that could be reworded and drop the acronyms to make it a little clearer.
I agree. We do have a bad habit in local government of using acronyms a lot, and it's good to be reminded sometimes not to.
Councillor Holmes.
What would make it even clearer is if there was a smiling face at the door saying, what would you like to speak to? Oh, you can speak to it at the beginning, or you can speak to it when it comes up.
And that is our intent, is to at least, is to be at the door and to try to understand for people, and if if it works to have a speakers list if it's on bigger items.
I just have a question, and this has to do with publishing deadline of the agenda. You've established when your drop dead date is for your senior staff to submit their reports, right? I'm just speaking to that 4 PM on Thursday. Personally, it works a lot better for me to have it on Thursday rather than Wednesday, because then there is time for the corporate officer and the CAO and I to meet on Wednesday to go over the agenda or the proposed items on the meetings, and then have it released on Thursday. So if we could just, work with the Thursday at 4 o'clock and see how that works for a while, and then we can review it later if necessary.
And yes, we have, as I mentioned in the committee of the whole meeting, basically the direction to staff is that agendas are now first priority. And we recognize, given the workloads we've had over the last 6 months, that there will be things that don't get done that will have ramifications, especially in terms of the communication or some of the meetings that we have. There will be items, but then we need to bring them to council. And that, to some extent, I can do the prioritization with staff, but when it's a directive of council that that's a hard deadline, then we need to bring the things, what needs to give, and then and council can revisit that. I think what we're going to try to do is publish agendas if there was, in reports that just can't get done, we either have to look to see whether or not the item has to come off and be bumped to a future meeting, or whether it has to come as a late report, but the public, we try to limit the late reports, but there are some time-sensitive issues that we just need to deal with.
Councillor Carlson?
Just also a note, we will be having committee of the whole on a different day than council meetings.
Right, the committee of the whole is not in the procedures bylaw, so.
So as a Thursday afternoon deadline, there's now Friday and then Monday to be actually reading things and asking the questions, whereas if you get an agenda on a Friday afternoon and you have a meeting for 4 hours on Monday morning, your opportunity to have a moment to get that question out or to figure out the extra details isn't there. So I think that we will have a little bit more flexibility because of the changes that have already happened on our Mondays, and I hope that a Thursday 4 PM deadline seems reasonable to me, and I look forward to reading agendas on Thursday evening. Hey, I did this time. Absolutely.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You used terminology, drop dead.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't very
No, I
good.
appreciate that for staff getting in their reports now. Would this 4 o'clock Thursday be a drop dead date for us?
We will publish at 4 o'clock on Thursday. There may be days that I need to talk to, on a Wednesday, that I'll need to talk to the mayor and say, would you prefer the items just not coming forward at all, or with late report, like I say, I already know, especially when we enter time, like most of the times we were late, there was either a crisis that came, and a human resource crisis that affected all of us, or an emergency. Every single time it was late, there was something that was, but we've shifted in how we look at it, and so that the expectation is that you'll have it by 4 o'clock.
Okay, any other questions about our procedures bylaw? Could I have someone, Councillor Barkle.
I was just looking at, the CEO just said that the committee of the whole isn't dealt with in the procedures bylaw, but it seems to,
No.
it's all part of the same thing. And
But not the date, the dates aren't in there, are the times?
Dates or
Well,
times? or not?
it seems, that's sort of why I started looking, because I thought, what is the process for a committee of the whole? Just that
whenever the mayor calls one, or?
Yeah, we call them, so we have a procedure, now we've talked about having them at 1:30 on the alternating Mondays. But we'll do that for some time and monitor it, so the mayor will.
So that part's not in the bylaw, so we can just...
Yeah, that's never
feel
been
like,
part, it's only the regular council meetings that are in there.
But we won't be having it 1:30 on December the 3rd.
You will be, yes, you'll be having a budget meeting, and that's a committee of the
But
whole.
is that, oh, okay.
But you may need, because we have budget right now, you may have more. That's the thing about committee of the wholes, is almost every
thank
time
you.
we meet, it's outside of a council meeting, it's a committee of the whole meeting, even budget
Okay.
meetings.
Okay, perfect.
May I move this motion?
Yes, are there any other questions of the COO? Thank you.
That the bylaw be read the first and second time by title only and a third time.
Seconded by Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? Carried. 4.4, fees and charges bylaw, retail sales of non-medical cannabis, bylaw number 2018-031. CAO.
And this one's just simply adoption.
Councillor Holmes, will you bring a resolution forward?
I'll move to adopt.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Carlson. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. 14.5, Financial Plan 2018-2022, Amendment Bylaw Number 2018-032, and this is also for adoption. CAO, is there?
Nope, that's just adoption.
Okay, Councillor Holmes?
I'll move to adopt.
And Councillor Van Elfen. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. 14.6, road closure and removal of highway dedication, 12817 Kelly Avenue, bylaw number 2018-030. And again, this is just for adoption. Councillor Carlson, seconded by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? None opposed, carried. On to councillor reports. Who am I going to pick to go first? Councillor Traynor.
The only thing I have to report is on Thursday, November 15th, I attended the RDOS inaugural meeting where I was sworn in as the District of Summerland's alternate representative. So I'm really happy to do that, and yeah, it was a good ceremony.
Thank you, and I'll thank you in advance for attending for me on December the 13th.
Yes,
The meeting is
absolutely.
on. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing really to report, just really looking forward to this Friday evening.
Yes, me too, thank you. Councillor Holmes?
I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, I attended the Chamber of Commerce Board meeting, and much of the discussion was about preparations for Light Up, and it sounds like it's very well organized this year, and I don't think there'll be much hiccups, if the weather cooperates. The only thing is, the one thing they were talking about was that they still did need, need for volunteers. I'm not sure if they've sorted that out, but and it's a bit last minute, but if anybody wants to volunteer, I suggest they contact the chamber. As the mayor had mentioned, we've been busy with RDOS the past couple weeks, both the inaugural meetings, and we're straight into budget. We've had our first budget meetings. We have another budget meeting this week. And we also have strategic planning this week as well, and so if anyone else on council has any regional priorities they would like to talk to me about, just let me know, and I'll bring that. I can bring that forward to strategic planning. And I just wanted to say also, I attended the Aeneas Creek workshop and it was incredibly well attended. I'm sure glad the fire marshal, the fire chief was here, because I think we were over our maximum in this room. But I thought it was really good seeing the province and the municipality work together and really address some pretty big issue together. And I thought it was one of the best public meetings we've had in a long time, just because of the quality of both the questions and the answers given. There was really good feedback, and I think everybody left thinking, yeah, we're all in this together, let's work together on this, and so I left feeling pretty optimistic. So, and then I'd like to thank staff for organizing that.
Great.
It's very good.
And Council will probably be having a further discussion on that as well once we get the assessment. Councillor Carlson.
I was going to attend the energy efficiency workshop last week, but I ended up sending my husband instead. He came home with all kinds of ideas and a bag full of goodies and this enthusiasm to improve the, what's the word? Efficiency, electrical and energy efficiency of our homes. So things have already been done, and I think that it was really well received. He did note that the majority in attendance were the regular Summerland demographic. So I think in future we should see if we can get some people under the age of 50 out to these events.
Excellent. Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you. I also attended the Eneas Creek, and I'd like to thank staff for putting that on. I think it was very much appreciated by all those who attended, and it was great to see the ministry staff there because they took the brunt of the questions from people. I'm not sure if everyone left really satisfied. This whole time frame for getting a permit to do any work in the creek is quite problematic, and no concrete solutions were offered there. But everybody was quite relieved to hear that they could at least walk around in the creek in the rubber boots and pick out sticks and things and clear it up a little bit. And some people were also, it's very interesting how seriously people take their responsibility towards the creek and any disturbance of the natural habitat of it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Now time for public and media question period. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like, okay, thank you.
This is on? Good. There are two of us speaking to one issue tonight, so that if you'd like to discuss that afterwards, you can do so after we both finished. My name's Jolene Palmer. I live at 13917 Prairie Valley Road. I'm directly north of the property in question regarding ALR application 57964 for a cannabis processing facility. I'm also the owner of Prairie Valley Christmas Trees and Summerland Haskap Berry Farm. I would just like to say to Council that I'm very disappointed in your decision to support the ALR application to allow the removal of topsoil to facilitate a cannabis processing facility in the middle of Prairie Valley Road. Prairie Valley, pardon me. I voted for most of you based on your stated opposition during the election to cannabis production on ALR land. I'm disappointed that you all received correspondence from 16 Prairie Valley households outlining our objection to this application, yet the issue was not revisited on the agenda by either the old council nor the new. I am very disappointed it didn't even make it onto the correspondence list, so it at least becomes part of public record. The Agricultural Land Commission asked for input and opinions from local governments. By giving your approval to the removal of soil, which has already mostly been done, you are giving tacit approval to the construction of a huge facility that would forever change the face of Prairie Valley. Exactly where do you stand as council members on this issue? I challenge you to reconsider this decision, look at all the information that has been provided to you, and do right by Prairie Valley residences. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dawn Richards. I live at 14119 Prairie Valley Road. I'd like to address obviously the same issue. The application for the Sweet Valley Cannabis on Dale Meadows Road. A group of concerned citizens in Prairie Valley have sent a letter to the previous council and the present council regarding our concerns on the proposed operations on this property. So if you haven't had a chance to read those letters, I can send them again. By now, I think you're well aware of our concerns. But until I made a call to Councillor Carlson, we have had no response from the municipality. So I have a few questions. First, Again, like Jolene said, why, with an option to deny the application back in October, to send it back to staff, why did council agree that the recommendation be approved as written? I appreciate that it was the previous council's decision, but this council's about the same, so it's about the same people who agreed to it. The other question I have is, council in favor of the non-food operations on agricultural land that do not require soil or in-ground planting? If not, what is council planning to do to curb the growth of such operations? Just a few years ago, many of you on council spoke out in favor of preserving agricultural land. We all remember Stop the Swap, and I was in favor of that. The province is now introducing new legislation, mainly aimed at curtailing the misuse of agricultural land for mega mansions and illegal dumping. The message they are sending is the ALR is for farming. So perhaps in the future, they will also see that maybe these other operations that are non-food, that do not require soil, do not require in-ground planting, should also not be really located in the ALR. This document, I sent a link to Mayor Booth, sorry, it's a new legislation that's coming down provincially, and some of the comments in here particularly say farming and local food security are important everywhere in BC. So I'm hoping, if you haven't read this legislation yet or heard of it, read it. It seems, the province is finally making steps in the right direction from my point of view. Anyway, local governments, I believe, need to send a message to the province. What message is our council going to send?
Thank you.
Next.
Good evening, I'm Janet Peak. I reside at 13396 McClure Road, and the comment for this evening's discussion was that in regards to rotary beach docks, that some consideration may be given or could be given to floating docks in any replacement strategy. I have ideas around that, but I'm sure staff would bring that forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Any other comments from the public? From the media? Okay. Someone to bring, thank you, Councillor Van Elfen, for adjournment, seconded by Councillor Carlson. All in favor? We're done. 37.